So Michael's work is pretty outstanding and very sound way of thinking about and framing philosophy, political philosophy, and the different ethical theories that we grapple with, every day. So the next slide that we're addressing here now is looking at how do we sort of classify in a broad sense the different ethical theories that we're working with. And the first one is what we would call the teleological, which is really looking at the amount of good in the end, or the consequences. And when we're thinking about the consequences, we're really thinking about, well, what's the most important outcome? And was the outcome fair? Was the outcome just? And what that might argue, of course, is that even your behaviors to get to the outcome may not have been good, but your outcome was good, so therefore it doesn't matter, it's a just outcome, so therefore it's ethical. And that's John Stuart Mill and utilitarianism, as you guys heard in the lecture from Michael Sandel. The next is the deontological, the deon, or the duty. It focuses on protecting sort of individual or universal rights, and it focuses on behaviors, not consequences. So it's about my intention, and it's about why I'm behaving in a particular way. And Kant is one of the primary people around universalism, but also Aristotle. And Aristotle's ideas of we have a duty to behave as virtuous as possible, around the idea of the virtue ethics, and that's the reputation lens, as we were discussing with the ethical lens exercises. Then we have a hybrid of both, which would look at Rawls' theory of distributive justice or social justice, and it deals with outcomes, but it also deals with making sure we have a duty, to all those who are less able, less capable, to create a level playing field for them. That would be the argument, from Rawls. And then this general idea of virtue sort of sits in its own category. So Aristotle's stuff kind of sits in the deontological, but it also kind of sits in its own sort of unique category as well. So we'll get into utilitarianism, universalism, distributive justice or social justice, and virtue ethics, those four frames. So a quick review of the basics. The teleological looks at the end results, the utility of the balance between one outcome versus another, and the goal is that we want to have a utility formula that results in the greatest good for the greatest amount of people. Very Mr. Spock oriented, as we've talked about before. It focuses more on consequences, so no matter what your intentions were, it's the consequences that really matter. So if you had really bad intentions, but the consequences were good, in a real pure way, utilitarianism would argue, regardless of what your intentions were, the outcome turned out okay, so it's fine. The deontological focuses very differently on your behaviors as a means to an end. It's what you chose to do, why you chose to do it, based on these universal principles of rights and duties, and the deontological cares more about the intentions. Even if the outcome is not good, if your intentions were in the right place, that's what matters most. So that's how those two basics differentiate.